Good evening and thanks for joining us for the week's last edition of Prime Time News. I'm Michael Madimba. We commence this evening's bulletin from the United Nations General Assembly in New York, where President Dr. Hage Geingob noted that 100 years of colonization, as well as the current classification of Namibia as an upper middle income class country, does not reflect the reality on the ground when it comes to the income disparities between the wealthy whites and poor blacks. Linia Dishena compiled our lead story.
Global debt is at an unprecedented level and interest rates are rising. This reality limits our fiscal space. As we talk about our collective aspirations, we should remain acutely aware of the vulnerabilities facing developing countries. Namibia's classification as an upper middle income country presents challenges with regard to mobilizing resources to finance our development goals. As I have been saying, taking our GDP and dividing it by a small population, thus deriving a high per capita income, without doubt is flawed formula that requires urgent consideration. The formula does not take into account the vast income disparities between the wealthy white and the poor blacks, which is a consequence of 100 years of colonialism and apartheid occupation. However, I am pleased to hear that a number of developing and developed countries are in agreement with this unfair classification, which denies countries like Namibia access to soft loans and grants, which are necessary to fight inequality and to lift many out of poverty.
Back home, Rally for Democracy and Progress President Mike Kavakutora on Wednesday submitted a motion to the National Assembly calling for in-depth investigations of government projects that involve suspicious tender dealings. More details from this report.
It will therefore be a mistake to assume that everything is above board and all projects initiated by this government are in the interest of the Namibian people. If that was the case, it would have been reflected in our economic indicators. The only way to understand the real objective and what went behind the scene is to subject these government tenders and projects to a value for money test and to explain the variance between the initial project cost and the final project price. Honorable Deputy Speaker, let me highlight but some of the questionable projects that need further scrutiny and investigation. One, the Walvis Bay oil storage. This project was inflated from an estimated 3.4 billion to around 7.4 billion. And that is a jump of over 110%. Nectaral dam, depending on where you come from, is inflated from 5.2 billion to 7.8 billion, a 50% increase from the initial cost. NIP head office, inflated from 17 billion to 98 million. SME Bank, 240 million, disappeared in thin air. Cora Award, 23 million. And no explanation to date as to what went wrong. These and other projects demand answers from the executive. The nation needs to know how the resources are applied, utilized, and for whose benefit. Those in the executive found to be abusing state resources must be brought to book, charged, and ask them to pay the money back and let their assets taken over by the state.
Moving on, the Ministry of Health and Social Services has resolved to terminate the contracts of all 1,444 COVID-19 volunteers across the country, effective the 31st of October. Sawi Hausiku filed this insert.
This was revealed in a letter seen by this agency written by the ministry's Executive Director, Ben Nangombe, dated 13 September 2022, and addressed to all national and regional directors, chief medical superintendents, heads of COVID-19 response pillars, and human resource practitioners in the ministry. In the letter, Nangombe explained that the decision was taken due to the considerable decline in COVID-19 cases and the repeal of all public health regulations on 25 August, as well as the unfavorable financial situation faced by the ministry. Nangombe stated the appointment contracts of all COVID-19 volunteers will be terminated on 31st October 2022. Therefore, the letter dated 19 May 2022 on the extension of the contracts until 31st December 2022 is herewith withdrawn. Some unhappy COVID-19 volunteers who approached this agency on Thursday feel the government has betrayed them by terminating their appointment contracts before 31st December 2022. Nangombe told Nampa telephonically that the ministry is not finding joy in terminating these contracts and that it received authorization from the Public Service Commission to recruit volunteers to combat the COVID-19 pandemic for a certain period of time.
We shift attention to West Africa, where leaders agreed at an emergency summit on Thursday to impose gradual sanctions on Guinea's junta over its inflexibility on setting a date to return to civilian rule. Salima Shimwefalini Masipa brings us this report.
Omar Aleo Touré, president of the Commission of the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS bloc, told AFP that they have decided to take sanctions against Guinea. The leaders from ECOWAS, minus those of Guinea, Mali and Burkina Faso, suspended due to coups met in New York where they were attending the UN General Assembly. A summary of the meeting said that the leaders agreed on gradual sanctions on a list of people linked to the Guinea junta, which will be identified very soon by the bloc's leadership. Poor but mineral-rich Guinea has been ruled by the military since a coup in September 2021 that ousted President Alpha Condé in power since 2010. Guinea's junta-appointed Prime Minister Bernard Gomo earlier slammed ECOWAS chief Umar Sissoko Embalo, describing him as a puppet wearing the mantle of a statesman. In a statement, Gomo said Embalo, who is also president of Guinea-Bissau, was an overexcited man who forced his way into the ECOWAS presidency.
When we return, South Africa's central bank hikes interest rates to fight inflation. Primetime Biz begins in neighboring South Africa, where the central bank on Thursday raised its benchmark interest rate by 0.75 of a percentage point to 6.25% in a bid to fight inflation. Let's get more from this report.
The move follows a similar 0.75% hike in July, the highest in a decade. Inflation soared to 7.8% in July, near a 13-year record high. The South African Reserve Bank voiced concerns over high inflation and weak economic growth. Leseya Kanyango, the bank governor, said the Monetary Policy Committee decided to increase the repurchase rate by 75 basis points to 6.25% per year. He said the level of the repurchase rate is now closer to the level prevailing before the start of the pandemic. The move is in the 5th rate hike in a row.
We switch gears onto the auto sector. German car maker Mercedes-Benz has recorded more than 100,000 of its C-Class cars worldwide. Let's find out why.
A spokesperson for the company in the southwestern German city of Stuttgart said on Thursday that the recall would affect vehicles produced between October 2020 and June 2022. The company had found that moisture could enter the modules of the car responsible for receiving signals and giving commands if water entered the boot of the car. This could lead to malfunctions, including a failure of the rear lights and of the reverse camera. The German Federal Motor Transport Authority said that the danger of a short circuit starting a fire inside the car could also not be discounted. The vehicles affected by this defect will receive a new protective layer to stop water reaching the modules, the spokesperson said. This will take roughly 1 hour per car to apply the fix. Customers will be informed and urged to make an appointment as soon as possible.
Stay tuned for the economics roundup, followed by the weather forecast. Sport Planet brings you all things adrenaline in action. Rugby leads the segment. Emergency South Africa fly half Francois Steyn has been called incredible by former head coach Rassie Erasmus ahead of a crucial rugby championship clash with Argentina on Saturday. With Henry Pollard, Elton Jantjies and Damian Willemse unavailable, the 35-year-old utility back will make his first Springbok start as a playmaker since 2008 in the final round match. Argentina coach Michael Cheika has made 2 backline changes to the team that started last weekend, with centre Matthias Moroni and 34-year-old winger Yohan Imhoff promoted. On to football. Kylian Mbappe stole the show as world champions France shrugged off injuries and off-field problems to beat Austria on Thursday, while the Netherlands won in Poland to close in on a place in next year's UEFA Nations League finals. France's build-up to the defense of the World Cup in Qatar in November and December has been marred by fitness issues surrounding a host of key players as well as other worries, but Le Bleu did not appear distracted as they outclassed the Austrians in Paris, winning 2-0. Mbappe showcased his phenomenal pace and strength on the way, before finishing emphatically to put the hosts ahead on the 56th minute at the Stade de France. Stay tuned for your sports roundup. With the sports news, we've come to the end of this week's cast of Prime Time News. Much appreciated for watching. Again, if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please do. Like, share and press the notifications bell to stay posted on the latest happenings locally and globally. With that said, catch us next week from Monday as we bring you another edition of Prime Time News. From myself, Michael Madimba, and the entire cast and crew, have a blessed weekend.